Most people assume that whey protein is some kind of high-tech invention from a lab. But here's the truth. Whey is the liquid left over during cheese production. That thin, watery layer floating right on top of your yogurt, that is raw whey. For a long time, dairy farmers simply threw it away. Then in the 70s and 80s, bodybuilders discovered that it is packed with protein. Supplement manufacturers followed suit, and what used to be waste became one of the most popular products in the fitness industry. It is absorbed quickly, peaks in the bloodstream within about 60 to 90 minutes, and has the highest leucine content of all protein sources. Leucine is the main trigger that signals your muscles to start rebuilding. But whey has a twin, and most people have no idea that they are completely different things. This twin is casein, and here is what baffles most people. Casein makes up about 80% of the protein in milk. So every glass of milk you have ever drunk consisted mainly of casein. Casein, not whey. Same cow, same milk, completely different behavior in your body. When casein hits your stomach acid, it clumps into a thick gel and literally slows itself down. Instead of being absorbed in under 2 hours like whey, casein takes 6 to 8 hours to be fully digested. This slow release is exactly why bodybuilders eat cottage cheese before bed, because while you sleep and go hours without eating, casein maintains a steady stream of amino acids flowing to your muscles. Now we leave dairy products completely. Egg white protein is often overlooked, and that is a mistake. For decades, people feared eggs because of the cholesterol, but egg white protein has zero fat, zero cholesterol, and one of the highest quality scores of any protein on Earth. Here is the crazy part. Egg whites are 90% water. All the protein is packed into the remaining 10%. It is completely lactose-free, absorbs at a moderate rate, and works well at any time of day. Clean, complete, and consistently underrated. The next one has an image problem it doesn't deserve. Soy protein has been accused for years of lowering testosterone levels in men, and most research shows that this fear is largely exaggerated at normal intake levels. Soybeans have been cultivated in East Asia for millennia and eventually spread via trade routes to become one of the largest crops in the Americas. What makes soy truly impressive is that it is one of the few plants on Earth that contains all 9 essential amino acids, making it a complete protein. That is extremely rare in the plant world. The fear about testosterone is mostly unfounded. Pea protein sounds like something you eat when you are on a diet and miserable, but it has more in common with whey than most people realize. Dried peas are ground into flour, starch and fiber are separated, and what is left is a surprisingly protein-rich powder. It is not entirely complete, as it is low in methionine, but it is close, and it has quietly become the backbone of the vegan fitness world. You can find it in plant-based powders, in meat alternatives like Beyond Meat, and everywhere in protein bars. Pea protein is almost complete, but it is missing one piece, and the next protein is exactly the other half of this puzzle. Rice protein. No one thinks of rice as a protein source, and that is fair, because rice is basically the definition of a high-carb food. But brown rice protein, when processed correctly, can actually rival whey for muscle growth. The protein hides in the bran layer, the outer shell that is removed when making white rice. So every time someone switches from brown to white rice, they are literally throwing the protein away. On its own, rice protein is incomplete, but when you mix it with pea protein, you get a complete amino acid profile that can compete well with whey. The next one is complete on its own and comes from a place most people would never expect. Beef protein isolate sounds powerful, and the marketing absolutely leans into that. But here is what they don't put on the label. It is often made from the parts of the cow that are not sold as meat. Hides, tendons, connective tissue, all broken down using the same basic science used to make gelatin. It works, it is dairy-free, but it is expensive. It has a strong beef flavor that needs to be heavily masked, and for most people, eating real beef offers the same benefits for less money. Beef protein is real, but arguably unnecessary. The next one is the opposite. Truly useful, but almost always misused. Collagen is in coffee, gummies, skincare, wellness shots, and here is what most sellers won't tell you. Collagen is not a muscle-building protein. Mixing it into your post-workout shake is like putting motor oil in a salad dressing. It doesn't belong there. The reason it can't build muscle is that it lacks tryptophan, one of the essential amino acids, making it technically incomplete. What it does well with regular use, however, is support joint health, tendon strength, skin elasticity, and bone density. True wellness, just completely out of place when people use it as a primary protein source. Hemp protein makes people nervous because of its origin. And this part always makes me laugh because industrial hemp contains practically no psychoactive compounds. You cannot get high from hemp protein powder. What makes hemp unusual as a protein source is that the seeds contain both protein and healthy fats in the same tiny package, which is rare for something sold as a protein supplement. It has a slightly nutty, earthy flavor and shows up in health food stores and plant-based blends. The next one is misunderstood because of its price. Spirulina is not a plant. It is a blue-green algae, one of the oldest living organisms on Earth. Gram for gram, it contains more protein than a steak. Records indicate that Aztec civilizations were harvesting it from lakes in Central America centuries ago. NASA studied it as a potential food source for long-term space flights. Imagine shallow ponds turning a deep, vibrant blue-green as workers skim the surface to harvest it. Spirulina grows in tight, spiral coils, which is exactly where the name comes from. Ancient, alien, and expensive. But the next one makes spirulina look completely normal. Insect protein. Before you keep scrolling, consider this. An estimated 2 billion people around the world already eat insects regularly. This is not a food of the future. It is a food of the present that Western culture simply hasn't opened up to yet. Crickets are about 60 to 65% protein by dry weight and require only a fraction of the land and water resources needed for cattle farming. Cricket flour bars, mealworm snacks, and insect protein powder are already available in specialty stores and online. Efficient, ancient, and surprisingly nutritious. The next one is none of these things, but it hides in almost everything you eat. Milk protein concentrate is probably the protein you consume the most without ever knowing it. It shows up in processed cheese, protein bars, infant formula, and dozens of packaged foods, but almost no one calls it by its name. What makes it interesting is that it contains both whey and casein together in their natural ratio. It is basically whole milk that has had the fat removed and the protein concentrated. I would flip over the wrapper of a protein bar and check the ingredient label. Chances are good that it is in there. Quinoa is constantly referred to as a grain, but technically it is a seed. And unlike almost any other plant-based food, it is a complete protein entirely on its own. It has been cultivated in the Andes for millennia and remained largely regional until it exploded globally in the 2000s with the growth of health food culture. Here is the detail that most people overlook. Quinoa seeds are coated with a natural bitter substance that acts as the plant's own defense system, which is why rinsing it before cooking is actually important. Mycoprotein is made from fungi, not exactly from edible mushrooms, but from a naturally occurring fungus first discovered in the soil in England in the 1960s. The company Quorn has been selling products made from it since the 1980s, and it is the most successful meat alternative in the UK. Yet most people who eat it have no idea they are eating fungi. The fungus is fed glucose in large fermentation tanks, multiplies rapidly, and creates a fibrous texture that naturally mimics the structure of meat. Tank-grown fungi are already on supermarket shelves. The last one on this list is even stranger and could be the absolute future of protein. Scientists have figured out how to make whey protein that is structurally identical to that of a cow without using a single cow. They give microorganisms the genetic instructions to produce whey protein, and these microorganisms become tiny protein factories in fermentation tanks. It can already be found on shelves in the US in some ice cream and protein products, and the final product is indistinguishable from conventional whey in taste and nutritional value. And if a microorganism in a tank can produce perfect whey protein without a single cow involved, what does that mean for every other protein on this list? If this breakdown of the hidden world of proteins has changed the way you look at your diet, please subscribe to the channel and leave a like. We uncover the science and history that often remains hidden beneath the surface. Fuel your mind and your body. The next discovery will be revealed soon.